Before the Shire was ever marked on a map, before the first hobbit hole was dug into a green hill, the little folk were wanderers. For centuries uncounted, they drifted through a world that barely knew they existed. Tiny figures in a landscape of giants, kings, and monsters. They moved from valley to valley, following the flow of rivers and the shelter of wooded hills, keeping their heads down and their feet quiet. Their lives were tied to the earth, far from the eyes of great powers and the clash of armies. Over long generations of wandering, this hidden people branched into 3 distinct families, each shaped by the lands they called home. First were the Harfoots, hardy and brown-footed, who loved the hills and highlands. They were the most numerous and the most typical of their kind, closest to the old ways of living in burrows. Then there were the Stewards, a broader, heavier people who preferred the flatlands and riverbanks. They were less shy of big folk and were skilled with boats and fishing. Finally, there were the Falahides, the least numerous but the most adventurous. They were fairer of skin and hair, taller and slimmer, drawn to forests and the company of elves, possessing a love for language and song. But the world was changing. A shadow began to stir again in the east, a darkness that had long slept. Ancient evils reawakened, and monstrous things crept back into the wild. The lands the little folk knew became perilous. Fear, once a distant rumor, became a daily companion. And so, a great migration began. Driven by this growing dread, all 3 branches of the hobbit kind turned their faces west, seeking a land of peace. Their journey was not for glory or conquest, but for survival. They crossed the impossibly vast Misty Mountains, a terrifying barrier of stone and ice, and ventured into the dark, tangled woods of Eriador, a region haunted by the ruins of forgotten kingdoms. Finally, after long and weary travels, they found it, a gentle, sheltered country nestled between the river Baranduin and the far downs. It was a land of rich soil, rounded hills, and soft weather, so quiet and peaceful that the roaring turmoil of the wider world could barely be heard. Here, they could finally stop wandering. They dug their cozy homes, their smiles, deep into the earth. They planted gardens and orchards, filling their days not with the strife of survival, but with the simple joys of food, song, and storytelling. They established no kings and built no armies, caring more for a good harvest and a well-celebrated birthday than for any battlefield. While great empires of men and elves rose and fell beyond their borders, the little folk slowly, deliberately, forgot the old dangers. The outside world became a collection of fireside tales, a far-off rumor. The dark past faded into legend, but danger does not forget so easily, and one day, something from that dark past, an object of immense power, would find its way across their borders, and the quiet, peaceful hills of the Shire would never be the same again. Thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe to see what happens when trouble finally comes to this hidden land.